Hello YouTube! So this is going to be my fourth quarter of 2016 wrap up. I think I want to do these quarterly instead of monthly because I have not been very good at filming lately, and I'm sorry about that. I think it's been like a year or something ridiculous. So this is basically the last 3 months of the year and the first week of January, all of the books that I have read. And many of them are audiobooks. I'm counting audiobooks as well as Kindle app books, which I know a lot of people don't. So let's get started. So this is actually going back to about September. Oh, Booksplosion. So first we'll cover the graphic novels that I read. There wasn't very many of them. Miss Marvel volume, what is this, 4? 5. Miss Marvel volume 5, as well as the entire Lock and Key series. Last year for Christmas I got the box set and I read all of them in September. So as far as the graphic novels go, I really enjoyed all of them. I have pre-ordered all of the Miss Marvels so far. I love this comic book series. I can't wait for the next one. And then Lock and Key, this was a series that I'd wanted to pick up for a very long time, and my mom got me for Christmas in 2015. And I didn't get around to reading them until mid-2016, but I loved these. I flew through this entire series in like a week. I highly recommend this. It's kind of like spooky, supernatural, a little bit of horror graphic novel. The girl who circumnavigated fairyland in a ship of her own making. This gets really rave reviews here on YouTube, but I honestly didn't like it that much and I'm not continuing on with the series. This is a book that I'll donate. I also read several audiobooks as well as a couple physical books about fat women, I guess. This one is Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls, and honestly I've struggled with weight for most of my life. I wasn't super overweight, but everybody treated me like I was, and I got really sick and gained a lot of weight. And now that I'm probably the fattest I've ever been, I'm also the most confident and most self-loving I've ever been. And sometimes I need to remember that it's okay to love myself, so I've picked up some of these books this year. Gloria O'Brien's History of the Future by A.S. King. This is magical realism, and I loved this book. I am hoping to pick up more of A.S. King's books in the future. This is about a girl. She drinks a dead bat that's been turned into dust, I guess, and her and her best friend drink it, and when they look at people they can see the past or the future of what might happen, and it's trippy. But I loved it. Buzz, this is book 2 of the Game series by Anders de la Motte. I believe he's Swedish. These aren't my favorite books I've ever read, but they're very good and very hard to put down. My biggest complaint is that it randomly switches between our main character HP and his sister Becca. It switches between their points of view. Sometimes more than once a page it'll switch, sometimes it's several pages, but very frequently. And that's hard to get used to, but it does increase the suspense, so it does get what it was trying to do. Also, anytime the sides of the pages are colored, I love it. So I'm really happy that I have these for my library. I also read Naomi and Eli's No Kiss List by David Levithan and Rachel Cohn. I love David Levithan. This isn't my favorite book that he's a part of, but I love pretty much everything that I've read by him. I think his books are very interesting. This is another book that I'll probably donate just because I don't think I need to keep it, but I did have fun reading this. Then I read Gossip Girl. This is the first one. Again, this isn't something that I'm going to finish the series of, but it was very enjoyable to read. It stayed pretty close to the TV show. It's kind of a guilty pleasure. I won't finish reading the series, but it was entertaining to pick one of them up. The Fourth Wall by Walter John Williams. The first 2 of these books were incredible, so my mom picked this one up at a library sale or at our local dump as a book swap. And she told me that it wasn't that good, and I read it and I loved it. The main character, Dagmar Shaw, she takes place in basically these alternate reality, real life games where they're video games that take place in real life. There's clues you find online, and in real life you'll get phone calls, that kind of thing. They're super cool and super interactive and interrupt your real life. And she makes these games, and they decide to make this movie type thing where it's kind of like a TV show where it comes out every week or 2, but it's choose your own, so you get to pick what happens, and it's a murder mystery, and it's honestly really good. I really like this series, but I'm glad my mom told me to put my hopes lower because then it made me really like this book. Petty by Isaac Jordan. I'm part of the Adult Nerdfighters group on Facebook, and Isaac is one of the members. He's been putting out his book for a while, and I got it on Amazon, mostly because the cover is really beautiful. Again, this isn't my favorite book that I read this year, but it's also not my least favorite. It's kind of an awkward combination of like a YA find yourself novel a la John Green, but it's also kind of like got this dark humor. So it's kind of an awkward combination, but I did enjoy it while I was reading it. It did take me a little longer than most books to read, but no fucking page numbers. Isaac, if you make a new book, put page numbers in it. That is like my biggest pet peeve in books, is when they don't have page numbers. Bad book. Guardian by Alex London. I read Proxy a couple years ago. I actually won it in a Goodreads random giveaway thing as an ARC, and that just goes to prove anybody can win. And it took me a while to read it, but when I did read it, I really liked it. Proxies basically take on the punishment for rich people. They get assigned a proxy that they pay for, and they take on the punishment when that rich person does something bad. And at the end of the first book, it ends where the system has been kaput. It's exploded. It doesn't exist. And this is them trying to figure out how to make a new system. And the main character is treated almost like a god at times. And this was really pretty good. It took a big twist that I didn't see coming. I didn't expect this book to end like this at all. I didn't expect really anything in this book to happen. I thought it was going to be way more dystopian, and it ended up being more like a rebuilding. Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. Now, John Green has been raving about this book in his videos on Vlogbrothers for years, and I never ever picked it up until now. The covers are really beautiful in her books, but I found this book very problematic. The whole book could have been about 15 pages summarized with use your words. They're basically cheating on their boyfriend and girlfriend with each other for the entire novel. They're not sure if they're going to get together, but they both want to. And if they both just used their words, this whole book wouldn't have needed to exist. This is another one that I'm going to donate. Tithe by Holly Black. This is basically a modern fairy tale. I didn't really like this, honestly, and I really like some of her other books, so I'm not gonna finish the series. Is Everyone Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling. I have gotten really into memoirs and autobiographies, and this is a really good one. Mindy, you rock. I forgot to mention a graphic novel. This is An Age of License. Ariel Bassett mentions this in her videos, and I picked it up. It's really beautiful. It's about this woman's travels. Sometimes it's in color, and sometimes it's in black and white, and sometimes it's in both. It was really beautiful, and it made me happy to read it. And the most disappointing book I think I read this year. It wasn't horrible. I did enjoy it when I was reading it, but Jim Butcher's books are some of my favorite, and this one just wasn't. It's The Aeronaut's Windlass. It's kind of steampunkish, and it really was pretty good if that's what you're looking for. But I like his books for the humor mostly, and I just didn't find that. I have loved the Codex Alera. I have loved the Dresden Files. Well, come to think of it, I could go on and on. I could explain every natural phenomena. Don't mind me, I have Moana stuck in my head. I never thought that I would have a Disney soundtrack stuck in my head for so long, but it's really good. I don't like Hamilton, but I get the Lin-Manuel Miranda hype after that. The soundtrack is so good. I also read a couple of Kindle books. The first one is What If? Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions by Randall Munroe. He's the author of XKCD, and he made this book. And it's really stupid questions, and it's hilarious. It's really good. I highly recommend it. And then the last Kindle book I read was Scott Pilgrim Volume 1. It's the in-color version, and that was really good. I would like to pick up the rest of the series at some point. Read the Mistborn series, all 3 of them on Audible, really good. Really Professional Internet Person by Jen McAllister. She's Gen X Pen here on YouTube. I don't watch her videos. That was also pretty good. Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. That is my favorite Brandon Sanderson novel that I've read yet. I hope to read more of them, but that one was my favorite. Binge by Tyler Oakley. Again, I'm not a huge fan of Tyler Oakley, but I really did like that book. Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. That was incredible. She decided to say yes to more things, pretty much everything, one year, and how it changed her life. And it was really very entertaining to read, and I liked it. Trigger Warning by Neil Gaiman. This is short stories. I didn't really like that one, honestly. I prefer his other books a lot more. Then I listened to the Lock and Key audiobook that matches those graphic novels that I read. I do prefer the graphic novels. I think that it's best to read them together because the audiobook doesn't go into detail about like the fight scenes and stuff like that. It's more like listening to a radio play, but it was pretty good if you can deal with that. A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I hated that book. I really just listened to it because I was at work, and I pretty much listened to about 10 hours straight. I work 10-hour shifts, so I got more than halfway through while I was listening to it at work one day, and so I just was like, well, might as well finish it now. But I thought it was very abusive, toxic. I didn't think it was realistic at all. I know a lot of people love her books, but I'm not going to be picking any more up. I also listened to The Disappearing Spoon by Sam Keen. It's basically a history of the periodic table and all the elements, and it was really interesting. I'm trying to read more nonfiction, and I think that this is a very interesting way to do it. It was stories about the lives of the people who discovered these elements and how they were discovered, and it was a really interesting story, honestly. And the last book that I just finished a couple days ago, but I did mostly listen to in 2016, is My Year of Running Dangerously by Tom Foreman. He is a TV news host person. I'm not entirely familiar with that aspect, but this book had always kind of interested me. I am not going to be a marathon runner, but I am starting, and I have been for a little while, have started jogging and walking outside more. Maybe I think I want to do a 5K, but I'm not sure yet. I mostly just do it for the enjoyment of being outside. It was really entertaining. It was enjoyable and funny, and I didn't even know ultra marathons were a thing, and they're terrifying. He is a terrifying human being for competing in one of those. But it was really good, and I would recommend it if you're at all remotely interested in moving your feet outside. I mostly listened to that while I was moving my feet outside, jogging, walking. I wouldn't say running so much, because most of the time I walk with my dog, and she is a very small 14.5-pound dog, and I don't think she wants to run because her running is my speed walking, basically. So that was my fourth quarter of 2016. Maybe it was more of a third of a year. I think it was 4 months. I don't know. If you read any of these books, let me know what you think. Have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you soon, YouTube.